What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the Altar again, and this time we are here with Zed of the Almighty Esodic. Thank you so much for being here. It is great to have you here, man.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here too. Before we get into everything Esodic related, I do want to compliment because you have a great setup in the background. I noticed the Zeal and Ardor banner in the background, and most importantly, the Anal Nakrath shirt. I'm a diehard Anal Nakrath fan, so I like you already. This is going to be a great chat.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I also like your setup as well, and I'm a huge Ulcerate fan. I love Ulcerate so much.
We just became best friends. Isn't that great? Yeah, their album "Staring to Death and Be Still" was my lockdown soundtrack.
Yeah, man. It's Jamie is like one of my all-time best drummers. I love him, and I also work for Axis Pedals, so he's one of our endorsers. So I work with him. He's a pretty awesome dude and great drummer, phenomenal drummer.
Yeah, that's insane. I just saw them at St. Vitus right before the year ended, and I was just blown away with just first of all, just three members could make something that heavy as well. Like
Yeah, oh yeah. I was at the very first show they started the tour in Los Angeles. At the Knitting Factory, and I was there too. It was awesome.
That's incredible. And Anal Nakrath, I mean, Forward, that song off of A New Kind of Horror, I think
Yeah,
is like one of the most murderous songs ever. Like that is just one of the heaviest tracks I think I've ever heard.
yeah, man. It's an awesome band. It's sad that they don't tour as much as they used to, but I still love it. Even in Dark. This is the Document shirt. That last record was pretty amazing. And it's awesome how like they do this. It's a very special sound that's like very like industrial. I would call it industrial black metal.
Yeah.
It's
What it's like, what don't they incorporate in their music, right? Yeah.
yeah.
But it's so awesome to have you here because this new EP, De Facto De Jure, is absolutely kick ass. What I would like to know is, being that so far we've gotten EP so far, with Mirrors of Disgrace being the other EP, are these EPs that we're hearing from Esodic, is this like a good representation of what like a full length Esodic album is going to be like, or do you think you're just kind of going to stick with EPs for the time being?
It's hard to tell at this point. It's just like it was a big transitional phase for the band because we started the band in Jordan around the year 2000. And the band was starting to get established around 2003, and that was a little bit before I joined in the band. But at that time, the sound has like changed a little bit here or there, and mainly also by incorporating better and better production, so we were able to establish our character and our like sound much better. So in the very first demos, the sound was still like wasn't as mature as it was when we dropped Mirrors of Disgrace. That was the record that we started to get characterized of what exactly we want to sound like. But the lineup was completely like changed after Mirrors of Disgrace, and we had a transitional like single called Undoing that we dropped right after that, which was like an experiment. But this new EP was where we wanted to actually like elevate our sound and have our own character. And I think we used EPs mostly to experiment and like kind of like progress into getting to know our sound. But we definitely will be releasing a full length. Hopefully the next release will be a full length. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I'm really loving how the sound has turned out to be, especially this last record, incorporating so much more oriental percussion and also like oriental strings with kanun and oud, and those instruments that I wanted to incorporate in the music for a while. And I'm glad that this time it worked, and it was all organically and all naturally recorded, no MIDI tracks. And
It's
it was
it's a very raw and organic sounding EP. I guess just with it being an EP, it just left me wanting a lot more because like I loved Consequence, I loved Dirge, I love Rain, and I love the title track. So like I'm very excited to see there's definitely like the essence that Esodic definitely found their sound on this EP, so it really is exciting to see what Esodic does next.
Yeah, I'm really stoked, and I'm really happy how this turned out to be, because we were just like trying to experiment, and everything happened very naturally. It wasn't planned. Even the tracks were not recorded. Like, it's not like Michael came to me with like a song, or like Kevin came to me with a song and said, "Hey, let's just like write this." Like, we literally went to my lockout space, we plugged in everything, we recorded like a jam session where we just played whatever came to our mind, and then we took this jam session to the studio, and we were picking and choosing, and then refining everything and making it into songs, which makes it so much more like organic, and it wasn't like an indecisive process, as opposed to what most like music that comes out right now is. The idea start the idea we like the primary idea and the final product sometimes have nothing to do with each other, but here we were trying to just like be like try to execute and come up with something without thinking so much and over analyzing and overdoing things, and that's why it you can feel how natural it is, and how it's unfiltered and and it's just straight
Yeah.
and honest.
Is there anything from the older materials? Because I still think Mirrors of Disgrace is a great EP, and even like the Jenner Christ and Asodic split that you did back in the day. I like there is some great like old times and stuff. So you're not gonna fully abandon the past, right? I don't even think you can. I don't even think that's possible.
Of course not, because like that's a very important part of the band, given that the band is was born in the Middle East in the early 2000s. Given that like the sound and how the sound was crafted, the theme and what are we about in our lyrical themes, and the whole project's about, is something that was born even before the time that I joined the band, and that's something that I will never want to abandon that, because it's just it's a big part of how the future is gonna pan out, because we have to borrow from our past, and also all the old tracks were also written mostly in the jam room, in the early 2000s when we were jamming, and we would collaborate. Somebody would write something little, and then we would just sit and jam it out, and then the Mirrors of Disgrace was written somewhat like that.
Yeah. Being that there is such like a sort of theme or like a message, especially being a band from, I've always said that any band that's from the Middle East, because I've interviewed bands from many different Middle Eastern countries, there's so much, like, I feel like there's so much inspiration surrounding you, whether it's spiritual or political, internal, external. Would you say that would you consider Asodic to be a very conceptually driven band, where there's sort of like a concept or a meaning that guides your hand with how you write the songs in a way, or is the music always first before you know what like the song is more or less about?
It's definitely a concept driven band. It has to do with how we were raised, all the troubles we used to get into socially, just literally like leaving your house, getting in a cab and getting to the practice space. Just this journey by itself, you have to like we you have like it's just you are fueled by like just social anger, like from the moment that you leave your house. People seeing how you're dressed, people seeing like tattoos, piercings, the way you present yourself. It's just people are gonna question you, people are gonna like point the finger at you. Maybe people would even make fun of you. Maybe people would start something with you like on the street. It's a heavily like Muslim country. It's not as accepting and as open as how the West is in general. That's definitely like the anger and the angst and of just being around this kind of energy and these kind of people will definitely be inspirational to write something that's actually very metal.
Yeah.
It's basically it has to do with that. So on the other side, also politics, which is something like a theme or a topic that we're heavily involved in. Also, like what we think about politics, how much corruption is around us when it comes to politics and doing the right thing, and how many innocent people dying for just instead of the actual guilty people that are actually running the politics, that usually just are in the shadows, while just innocent people that have nothing to do with most of the political conflicts that around almost the whole world. Usually the people that die, the people that pay for the mistakes, are people that have nothing to do with the actual political decisions that are made by like political leaders.
See, I'm really glad that you got to mention this because here in the West, or in America particularly, a lot of metalheads, say that they became fans of heavy metal. They became this because they felt like an outcast. They felt like it gave them something to rebel against. Like a lot of metalheads, if anything, most metalheads find metal because of the sort of inner rebellion that's within them, and they feel very much kind of like the same way that you were feeling, as they felt like outcasts, people get made fun of. But it almost seems like you come from a society where that's like embedded into them. All the people who made fun of me as a teenager for liking metal and being into tattoos, now as adults we can laugh about it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, I called you an emo whatever stuff. But you come from a society where it's almost like a way of life, in a way where, like, not to say that everybody's guilty of ostracizing each other, but it almost seems like that is just in the atmosphere. It almost seems like metal comes to you rather than, it seems like metal came to you to become the rebel, rather than people choosing metal to become the rebel.
Yes, it's it definitely like happen. Like of course, you at some point in your life you're gonna like hear something and you're like, wow, this is cool. I want more of this, and then you start digging, especially like somewhere in the Middle East where you can't just go to a record store and find everything just at your ease. Especially before the Napster time. So you would hear the music, it just kind of it resonates with you. You feel like it sounds like how you're feeling, because you're like, I feel so different. I feel like the things I like do not resonate with like most of the people in my class, most of the people in my family, most of the people in my own home. So I didn't grow up with older siblings that like were into this kind of music, or even distant relatives. I didn't find anybody that came to me and they're like, hey, this is what you need to listen to. These are the foundations of metal. Here you go. Here's Judas Priest. Here's Black Sabbath. Here's like and like showed me the ways, basically. So I had to do a lots of digging, and like. And the more I found heavier music, the more I felt that's how I'm feeling. And so that discovery process was definitely something that's in a society that all of that is banned. So you have to. It's a process to get something to resonate with who you are.
And it's a big transition coming from a place like Jordan to moving. I believe you're in Los Angeles right now. So like that's a big just cultural and societal change and stuff. So did that change, and in perspective, did that also change how you write in a way, going from a place like Jordan to Los Angeles?
I'm not gonna lie to you. The only thing the main thing actually that's changed is I'm not as frustrated and angry as I am, because I whatever I want to achieve, I wanna write music. I can write the music that I want. The inspiration is like the day-to-day anger and anxiety and like social like frustration is not there. But luckily there's news, and you can always like read, and I speak to my parents, which they still live in Jordan. I go visit there at least once a year, so I can still get inspired to find the themes that I want to write about, which which we have drifted a little bit away from the social anger as much as like I want to inform. Like one of my goals is to inform the West about situations that they're not aware of. So lots of people here, they know the name Gaddafi. They might know that, oh yeah, this is the Libyan leader, but they don't know anything on about this about yeah. Okay.
I just wanted to, before I forget to tell you, they showed pictures of Gaddafi to people on the street to see if they could name him, and most of the people guessed that it was Lionel Richie. I just wanted to point that out. I just wanted to point.
So people need to understand that there's a yin yang. So there's always good and bad, and like every dictator in the world, was definitely like enslaved their people, was really bad. Like, but like you gotta see that there's also like economic in terms of economics and the better like the better way of how they deal with the goodness for their own country. So some of them do something good and do something bad at the same time. That you can't see, like there's nothing that's like absolutely bad or absolutely good. So that's what I'm trying to show people, because like there's also the point of view of the Arab world when it comes to those like dictators, and then the point of view of the West, which sometimes they're contradictory, but then at the end the truth usually is neither. The truth usually is when you study something and you find out that like, oh yeah, there's some of this and some of that, and that's what I want to tackle. I'm not trying to take a side. When I write a song about Gaddafi, I'm not trying to stand with Gaddafi or against Gaddafi. I'm just trying to like kind of put some of my findings and readings and stuff that I studied into a song and talk about it. And it's an inspiration. So whenever you hear somebody, like for example, BBC sent a reporter to interview Gaddafi, and Gaddafi kidnapped the reporter and imprisoned her and raped her and for a long time. So like when you hear that, like right away you feel angry. You feel like your breathing is changing. Your heart is like, well, like why would he do that to like a reporter who just wanted to like ask him questions? So like this is what I want. This is the kind of emotion that I want to enter the lookout with, and I want to write him. Right? It's like always like something makes me angry and something makes me like feel some way, and that's how we start writing the songs, because I don't want to just get a riff that like I was just watching TV and oh, this idea came to me, so I just go write it down and then put these ideas together and then think about the theme. I want to start with an emotion, So I heard this story about this dude that was such a piece of shit towards this other person, and this is what they've done. And I'm like, oh fuck, what an asshole. So you feel anger, you feel like you want to punch this person in the face. So cool. So this is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling anger, or I'm feeling frustration, or I'm feeling sad. So the first thing that I want when it comes to writing is an emotion. So find that emotion, and then from the emotion everything else would follow. And I feel this is how I like the writing process to be.
Well, and it's so great that you mentioned that, because for one, I can't even look at the news anymore without feeling like I'm going to have an aneurysm. Like, I can't read a headline, regardless of what's happening in the world, whether it's about the wars happening or, happening here with an election or anything like that. Every time I read it, I just feel like I'm about to, like, have a nasty heart attack in a way. And when you use this subject matter and it fuels an anger that you express through music, which is amazing, but do you find that, like, sometimes the songwriting process could become very deteriorating in that regard, when you have to almost like seek out the negativity, or you're digging through some of the darkest aspects of life in order to fuel your fire?
It's just an emotion. So like whenever you are trying to make art, in any form of art, the most important thing is to make you feel something. So and if it didn't come from an emotion, it's very hard for like the person who's gonna absorb your form of art to feel something. So even if it's a negative emotion, the process of taking this negative emotion, which is, for example, like sadness or fear or frustration or anger, like making that into a song, that's just it's the process of that is always going to be beautiful for me. And also, whenever I'm taking a negative experience that happened for me, for example, or like a negative story that had a negative impact on me when I read it, how it made didn't make me feel good, maybe my form of art is an ode to just to release this emotion in the form of a song. So I just don't want to absorb it. I don't want, like, I heard about this thing, it made me feel angry about it. I want to make a song so I can just like release this emotion, release this energy that came through my body because of like getting exposed to it in the form of a song. But it's not glorifying or putting it on a pedestal. It's a way of like releasing this type of emotion that I felt from like this story or this experience that I made into a song.
And you led me perfectly into sort of the final segment of this interview because I wanted to talk about your approach to drumming. And that is, first off, like a lot of people assume because the drums are not a very melodic driven instrument that it's not a very emotional driven instrument. It's just strictly technical. But when I listen to the percussion that's incorporated on this new EP and the previous stuff, I could feel the energy. I could tell that you're channeling that rage into it. But why do you feel that the drums were always the best means of expressing this sort of message for you?
It's just because mainly like whatever gets you moving is the drums, it's the beat. So like I like, and how the just the amount of notes and the half timing versus double timing of the parts does to how you're feeling, and how much of the intensity can be increased just by the drumming itself. Because we can take like just a simple riff and just try to write just a traditional blast beat on it, or like or like a hammer blast or bomb blast, which all of these are just more and more notes that you put into the drums, which can like make like the riff go from a groovy riff to like a riff that makes you want to get up, and then a riff that makes you want to like do a stage dive or mosh. So it's definitely a way to channel emotions in a rhythmic way. But of course, given that like we as metal drummers have so much in front of us to make sounds from, it gets more and more melodic. And also incorporating all the percussions, which give even more and more and more of a melodic feel to the rhythm section. That's how I was able to make the drums, resonate with much more emotions and much more melodies, and the way how I made the song move in a melodically rhythmic way.
Yeah. And it definitely succeeds with that. Have you always preferred to have music already written before you start laying down your drum patterns and your beats, or have you ever had the whole drum pattern written and then the band can write over that?
Actually, I haven't. I have never done it the other way. My very good friend Elliot Hoffman, who plays drums with Car Bomb.
Shout out to Elliot, great friend of mine. I usually see that guy at every show.
He's an awesome dude. We just hung out during NAM, and I was just talking to him about the process of writing for Car Bomb, and he does it exactly how you said, the second way, which is like he writes the drums. The drums is the first thing that gets written in the song, and then everything else follows. And that's very, very interesting, because I've never been in a situation where I brought, like, I have definitely written grooves, and I went to the jam room, and I like played those grooves for some of my musicians, and they were and we tried to write something on top of that. But like that was never the process, which is something that I need to get into more and more, because I feel sometimes it can make a song like the creative direction different, and it's something I definitely want to experiment with, writing the drums before writing the guitar. But pretty much everything I have recorded or written, I written over guitars that were like shown to me.
Not to talk shit by any chance, by any means, But when somebody presents the music to you without any drums on it, how off time is it and how offbeat is it? You probably have to fix a lot of stuff, right?
Honestly, but I'm blessed by most of the musicians that I work with that I have a recording set up and they know how to record to a click. So I cannot complain when it comes to that. Like I'm very grateful and very blessed that like almost every musician that I work with can record to a click, tight enough for me to just right away start to record on it. I never had to do editing or like, which is unlike drums. It's way harder to like edit guitars to make them like tighter as opposed to like drums, which you can cut and paste it like if push comes to shove if it's not that tight.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you for such an awesome conversation. Most of all, thank you for just this epic music. I can't wait to hear more. Just with this new EP out, is there anything else with upcoming shows or tours or anything in the Esodic camp that you would like to promote?
Honestly, everything is in the works. The only things that I would like to promote is as I hope you got a minute to see the Dirge enhanced music video, which is sorry, enhanced lyric video, which is something that we like. I wanted to do something different because everybody does lyric videos and does graphics. So the inspiration for Dirge and Rain was this film called The Devil's Double, which is about Uday Saddam Hussein. And when I watched the film, I wanted to incorporate clips from that film and make a lyric video out of it. So that was like the first of its kind. I've never seen anybody like get footage from a film, incorporate it into a lyric video, and make a promotional video for a track. So we did one for Dirge and one for Rain, which is going to be released on the 10th of April. This is something that I would like if anybody has like some time to check it out. It's on YouTube. It's something that's first of its kind, and I really love what Anthony Simon was able to do with the editing and with the motion graphics. It's really one of the coolest things that we've made, and I'm super stoked with it.
Awesome. Can't wait for the rest of the world to see it. Thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Esodic. Be sure to check out the new EP, De Facto De Jure. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.
Thank you so much.